Hello guys, once again it's Matt, and today we have another video. Thank you all the members, all the patrons. Make sure to subscribe. And we have one of these videos again, what we will see in the future of one tech tree. Today we have the French tech tree. Thank you, Lazy, our moderator in Discord, that actually helped to do this list basically. And let's hop in because the video is going to be long. The objective is to basically show everything from rank 5 upwards that can be added to the War Thunder French aircraft tech tree without too much hassle even, and what we will see in the future as well. So yeah, let's hop in. As you see, we're going to go for rank 5 first, rank 6, rank 7, 8, each time and each line, so let's go. So rank 5 over here, the Mystères, is it Mystère? Yeah, it's Mystère, right? But the, the Ouragan, sorry. The Ouragans and the Mystère choose, that's the difference, I always forget. They remain the same, obviously, because they are already here. But then in this line, we have some additions. The SE535 Mistral. It's a very interesting aircraft, actually. It's a Vampire FB5 with a better Rolls-Royce Nene engine instead of the Goblin. So a lot more power, like almost twice as much more, more power than original Goblin from the original Vampire. So it would be a very interesting aircraft to be added. So yeah, SE535 Mistral. Then the Meteor NF11, they actually use this Meteor. It's a night fighter version as well. It is the NF11, not the NF13. But it is basically a normal NF, very similar to the NF13 that we have in the Israelis, but it doesn't have the tropicalization mods needed to be operating in the desert, so it's just a normal NF11, right? After that, the Acheon 203, it is basically a very, very interesting aircraft as well, a Sea Venom, using the APQ-94 radar, same radar as the American F-8E, that can use the R511. So it's a single seat version of the Sea Venom. So very, very cool with different radar, right? Then the normal Vatur that we have already. Then we go for this line, the F-84G already in game, F-84F. Then we go for some of the light fighters or strike light fighters, if you will. The SE-503 Barondio. I don't know, how do I say that? But it is basically a single-engine lightweight fighter designed by SNK's Sud-Est for NATO for the lightweight strike fighter competition, the one that the G91 won. So yeah, very cool, very interesting aircraft, very powerful, very light, and it could be a very interesting aircraft. It has 29 kilonewtons of power, so it is a very light aircraft with a very strong engine. And he used 230 millimeters. Then we have another competitor for that as well, the Breguet BR1001 Tauan, as well as the Barundio. Jesus, these names. It was also for the competition for the lightweight strike fighter competition, right? And as I said, he lost as well for the G91. And only 2 prototypes built, but it is an interesting design, very powerful engine as well, 21 kilonewtons with 450 cal guns and basically 4 pylons that can be used for rockets and unguided bombs, right? Basically the French G91, it's even called sometimes. Then the bomber line, Canberra Mark 6, basically the same that we have in the British tech tree, so cannons and stuff, pretty cool. They use that aircraft, so why not add it? I mean, maybe not, but maybe yes. I mean, I don't see the point of not adding it. But yeah, the Vautours, and then we go for the premiums and event vehicles. So this can be, different depending on where you want. We have some premium vehicles as well, for example, here, and some event vehicles. So, for example, the Ouragan 30L could be a premium. So, same as the other Ouragans, but it has a different intake for different engines. So the Atar 101B, very interesting design, very different from the original Ouragans. And basically uses the initial production model of the 101. So stronger than the other ones due to that engine. It has also two 30 millimeters. The Breguet BR 1001.01, which would be basically a late version. I think both of them are basically the same, right? Very, very, similar. But it has a redesigned wings for better speed, very similar to the 3.1, as I said. So some prototypes over here. Remember these are all prototypes, but these ones were in service as well. So it depends on what they want, but yes, it is pretty interesting. Then we go for rank 6. Rank 6 has some very interesting ones. Starting from the left here, Mystère 4A, normal one that we have in the tech tree. Then the Mystère 4B, same as the Mystère 4A, but with the Attar 101 G2 engines. The same as the Mystère B2, Super Mystère B2. So very strong version of the Mystère 4. It was basically a prototype that was cancelled due to the Super Mystère being developed, but still it would be a very cool addition to that tech tree. Then the Super Mystère B2, the normal one, and then the B4. The B4 is basically the same as the 4B here on the Mystère, right? It is basically the same as the Super Mystère, but it has the next engine. So uses the Attar 9B basically engine for the Mirage 3C. And also it has 3 degrees more from 45 to 48 on the swept of the wing. So it is a very fast aircraft. It could go up to Mach 1.4. So very interesting. It was cancelled later due to the Mirage 3, but still, as well as, it was a late 50s design. So yeah, but it was a very interesting aircraft, and I think it should be added. Then the F-86K that we already have, and then the Super Étendard. I know the Étendard 4M is right here, and maybe we should see the Étendard coming for here, because I think in the future this might be the French Navy tech tree. So why not add the Étendard over here as well, right? Instead of adding these ones over here. But it can be added over here as well, the Super Étendard, just because the Étendard is here. So it's 2 options that we probably would see, right? It is basically the evolution from the normal Étendard 4 that we already have, even though it is in another tree. As I said, having it there, it would make the Étendard, normal Étendard, have to be changed, or the Super Étendard being in the same way, as I said. Entered in service in the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken, and it has a 8K50 Attar engine, so extra 5 kilonewtons of power from the original Étendard 4M, around 100 meters per second of climb, and around 1200 kilometers per hour of max speed. Has 2 DEFA 552 cannons, same as in the Mirage 3s, if I'm not mistaken, with 6 pylons, being able to do basically almost everything, so unguided rockets, unguided bombs, snaps, and also mainly guided stuff. So obviously it has the MatAWGs to be defending itself. Depending on the BR, it could carry the Magic 2, I think, as well, or the Magic 1, but initially the Magic 1. In the 2000s, it got an upgrade that we're going to talk about it later over here, but with laser-guided stuff and stuff. But the main thing is that these aircraft also could carry some nuclear bombs and missiles, but I think the main thing, the really main thing, the main missile, the main weapon of these aircraft would be the Exocet anti-ship missile that can be used with its Ajude radar. So very interesting aircraft, and it should be added soon. This tech tree, F-100, and then we go for the Alpha Jets. The Alpha Jets, they're trainer / light attack aircraft. We have the first one here, also called the Alpha Jet 2, uses better engines and Magic 2s than the original Alpha Jets, carrying the Dassault CEM pod, rockets countermeasures, at the same pod. Training jet, as I said, but also could do the light attack. It can use many type of unguided stuff, and also magics and a DEFA 30mm pod under the belly of the aircraft. So yeah, very interesting aircraft, similar to other like the Hawk and some other aircraft that we should get, the L-39 and stuff. So yeah, and then we have the Alpha Jet 3. It is a proposed modernized version in the 90s. With laser-guided stuff, anti-ship missiles, MFDs, a nose-mounted FLIR system, using the Ajude radar as well to use the Exocet missile. but apparently was abandoned by the government, so it might have not have a place in game, but it would be cool to see a more modern version of that. Then we go for the bomber/attacker, the Jaguar A early. This would be basically the one that we have in game with the at least targeting pod, and then we could see a Jaguar A late, this one with basically the same one that we have in game, but with the CLDP targeting pod, the same one as in the Mirage 2000 DR1 over here. Of course, it could use the Magic Choose as well, just a more modern version of it, so a higher BR probably. Maybe not even use the Magic Choose, but I mean, that's debatable, right? Then we go for the premiums and event vehicles. So Milan Jaguar E, it's already added. Then we have the Mystère 4M, basically a version of the Mystère 4 that has a radar for night ops, similar to the F86D, the PG-33. It has 30 millimeters with more ammo than the original Mystère 4s, as well as an internal MatAWG rockets as well. Very standard for the French, using the afterburning Avon engine with around 44 kilonewtons of power. So very interesting aircraft. It should be a very good premium. Then we go for the Mirage G8. It would be basically an event vehicle, you know. So the G8 was a very interesting aircraft, actually. A two-engine swing-wing aircraft proposed to be using the Cyrano 4 radar and the 9K50 engines, both from the Mirage F1C. And it was tested even with the AS-37 Martel anti-radiation missile. So if entered in production, it would be the counter to something like a MiG-23 or even the F-4. So it would be very interesting to see an aircraft like this, swing-wing, larger kind of situation, right? But it never saw production. Then we see the Alpha Jet E, a trainer version of the Alpha Jet with unguided bombs and rockets and CCIP, as well as a Magic 1s and maybe 2s, like a squadron vehicle or something, could be used as one, you know. And then we have the Etendard for number 68, which would be a very interesting one as well for an event vehicle, being basically the same as the 4M, the original one, but with the Super Etendard engine, so the 8K50 engine with 9 kilonewtons extra of power, so very interesting. Then we go for rank 7, Mirage 3s and the F1 obviously. Then we have the F8P over here. It would be basically a modernization of the F8E. The main thing would be the Magic Choose. Remember, these aircraft were used until 1999, so yeah, very modern. And then we would see the Super Etendard S5 SEM, the upgraded that I basically talked about it. They added a targeting pod named Democles to use laser-guided stuff, so AS-30s, Ls, you know, and other guided bombs like the Paveways and stuff. And Magic Choose and has flares as well, so just a more modernized version, around the 2000s, so just a more modern version of it. Then we don't have anything like this on here. Let's go for this, the Mirage 4. Mirage 4, it is an interesting one as well. Large supersonic strategic bomber 64 were made out of them. From 1964 until 2005, they were in operation. We had a bomber version and a reconnaissance version, or they do the same, I don't know exactly, but the thing is that it was going to be a bomber in the game, capable of up to Mach 2.2 and service ceiling of 20,000 meters, so the performance is very, very good. And it can carry 16 454 kilogram bombs, so a very large payload as well for bomber, so very cool. In real life, it could carry nuclear bombs as well, so in game, it could as well, if they want to. Then the Mirage 5, Mirage F1 CT, and then we go for the special ones as well. F1 C200, it's already here. Mirage 3 EX, it is basically a Mirage 3 that has E basically, but it has fly-by-wire, and it uses the engine and the radar from the Mirage F1C, the 9K50 in the Cyrano 4, so a great, basically premium aircraft. I mean, it would be basically the Mirage F1C, but with the fuselage of a 3. And then we could see something like the Mirage 2000C S3, right, as a premium. Or it might be other things, but as a premium, you would be an interesting choice. It is basically one of the initial versions of the Mirage 2000 from the early 80s, you know. So it has weaker engines than the S5 and the RDM radar, which is way worse than the one we have, the RDI on the C5, right? So yeah, it would be basically Mirage 2000, but with the performance of it, but less power and less radar. So it would be just a weaker one, and probably very little flares in chaff, probably. So yeah. Then the Mirage F1M, which would be a very interesting one as well. It's a Spanish version upgraded to basically 2000 models, like a 2000 like idea behind it. Has colored MFDs, modernized HUDs, and it has an improved Cyrano 4M radar. So another version that could be added as a premium, right? Then we go for the event vehicles, Mirage 3 C2, a C basically with the 9K50 engine from the F1. So basically the middle between these two, kind of, you know. So very interesting as well. The Mirage 5 BA MIRSIP, which is a Belgian version. Is it like that you say? I don't know. A Belgian version upgraded in the late 80s with a laser rangefinder, AIM-9P, canards, and a new RWR. So just an overall Belgian version. And then we have the Mirage 3 Rose 3 program, which is a Pakistani upgrade to the aging Mirage 3s that they had. MFDs, modern HUDs, you know, the Grifo M3 radar. I don't know how good this radar is, but just an improved radar. A targeting pod for laser guarded stuff. So overall, very interesting aircraft as well. They can be added as an event vehicle. And then we have the Mirage F1CE, an export model for the C variant for the Spanish. So yeah, very cool. And then we go for the last rank, the rank 8. First of all, obviously the Mirage 2000C C5 that we already have goes for the Mirage 4000. The Mirage 4000, I already talked about it, but it is basically the heavier fighter version of the Mirage 2000, right? So the radar was the RDM present on the early Mirage 2000s, but it was originally named Cyrano 500. So you would have a worse radar than the normal C5 that we have, but it would carry a dozen missiles, Magic 2s and Super 530Fs, while also being able to properly bomb and strike with precision weapons as a larger aircraft would do, right? As for maneuverability, it would be around as maneuverable as an Eagle, you know. So it is basically, it has the performance as comparable as an Eagle as you can do, right? So yeah, very good acceleration, just a heavier aircraft with 2 engines. Already did a whole video about it, so yeah. And then we would go to the 90s. The 90s would have an interesting concept over here with 2 Mirage 2000s. The Mirage 2000 5F early and a late version. I divided a little bit. Both of them would use Fox 3 missiles, right? So the Mika ERs. They use the RDY engine. After that, the RDY 2, basically, for the Mark II version. That has extra modes, so the late would have that. The extra modes would just be like for search and rescue and stuff, so it's probably not going to be even added. But the radar should have around 110 kilometers with 24 targets that it can track with TWS and engage 4 of them with the Fox 3s. So very similar to something like, F-16s from the era and stuff. So yeah, it would be very, very cool. Very modern Mirages. The performance of them would be basically the same. The main thing is the weapon systems that are just better. The late having apparently the Mika IR, which would be a little bit better. And as I said, just a more modern cockpit and stuff. Of course, we kind of overdid a little bit with the Rafales, but it is just to show that we have a lot of versions that can be added for the far future of the War Thunder game, right? So the Rafale CF2 would be early and late. I mean, it would be just early versions of the Rafale. You know what the Rafale is. It is basically the evolution of the designs from the Dassault. It is kind of a 4+ generation aircraft, so very modern. Initially, of course, it had in the early the Mika-ERs, PESA radars. So the performance is hard to find, but I mean, it's a PESA radar, so it's going to be very good. Definitely 4 plus at least. It has the Democles targeting pod as well for laser guided stuff. Some cruise missiles, the M88 engine, which is a far better engine than the original M53s of the other aircraft. And the late would have basically anti-ships, more laser guided stuff, and GPS guided bombs and stuff, and as well as ECM. So the early and late would basically divide themselves on that. Then we would go for the CF3, which would be just an upgrade, a minor upgrade done to it to add an air-to-surface mode for the PESA radar, implemented as well HMS/HMD kind of situation there with the helmet of the pilot, anti-ship missiles and stuff. So yeah, very cool. And then the F3R version of that would receive the AESA radar, as well as more versions of missiles. Basically, the Meteor, it would have 200 kilometers of range of the radar, so the radar would be a lot better. Better versions of the Exocet, the Talios Recon targeting pod, laser-guided bombs and stuff like that from anti-ship missions and other stuff. So just overall a better version, especially on the radar compared to the original F3. And then the F4.2, which would be basically the final version, to be comparable to something like an F-35 or something like that. It wouldn't be like maybe as modern as that, but it is going to be very modern. It is still in development, and we don't know when it's going to be added in real life, right? So we don't know its capabilities, but in the far future, it could have been, I mean, it can be added to the game, right? So it can have the Scorpion HMD and just better anti-ship missions and other stuff. But remember, the Rafales, they are semi-stealth. There is a specific way of classifying them, but they are a little bit more stealthy than a normal 4th generation, but less than a 5th generation. But yeah, they're quite up there. So these ones are going to be added when we see stuff like 5th gens, okay? Then for the Navy part of here, that it would continue to go downwards over here. The Rafales, basically the same that we saw, but with carrier versions. So basically the same as these 3, basically, but with naval stuff. So basically being able to land on a carrier, right? But they're basically the same as the other ones. Also, then we would see some additions for the Striker, basically bombers as well, right? So the Mirage 2000 DR1 would be supplemented with the R2. The R2 would basically have the same as the R1, but with the Atlas 2 targeting pod. So just a different pod. And then you would go for the RMV, the addition of new missiles like the Mika-ERs and stuff. So yeah, just being kind of in the same room as the Mirage 2005F. Everything else would be basically the same. And then we would go for also some Rafales. The Rafales over here, they are all be placed, okay? So yeah, they are also comparable to the other ones over here. They would be copies of the other ones, but basically be placed. So the F2 would be similar to a late F2, for example. The F3 here, for example, like this, and the F4 similar to the F4 there, okay? Then we go for the premiums. The Mirage F1 MF 2000 would be basically a Mirage F1 with a version of the RDY radar from the Mirage 5F. So just a smaller antenna, so it has less range maybe. The Democles targeting pods, anti-ship missiles, paveway guided bombs, Mika-ERs, MFDs, modernized HUDs, LSDs, screens, you know, on the cockpit, and even NVG. So yeah, very cool. Mirage 2000 EG, a Greek model that has the RDM radar developed from the Cyrano 4. So yeah, it would be just used for air-to-air. I mean, it's just a Greek version of it that uses Magic 2s and the 530s, so different skins as well and stuff. And then the Mirage 2009 as well, one of the latest modifications of the Mirage 2000, RDY2, Radar, MIC-IR, YAMS, different skins, very cool as well. And then for the event vehicles, the F1CG, a Greek version of the F1C, with 2 more IR guided missiles, so MatAWGs or AIM-9P, so very interesting as well. And then the F1EQ6, basically an Iraqi modernization of the F1 that uses the Cyrano 4 SP1 radar with provisions for a targeting pod, laser guided bombs, exocet anti-ship missiles, and other stuff like that. But yeah, guys, obviously this is very specific. We might miss some of the stuff that might be added, like the Mirage 50 or something. I mean, there's so many options, but it's just to show that the French tech tree in the future can be very rich even before the Rafales. So yeah, obviously after the Rafale, there is basically nothing unless they add a subtree, but it is still very capable. I think the Rafale, the more modern Rafales, would still be able to compete if a 5th gen is ever added, right? And these older ones are, for me, I mean, these ones were so cool to see. I mean, I really wish they had already been added, right? And like the B with MatAWGs over here, some versions of premiums and stuff. It would be very, very cool to see. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about our choices on the French tech tree. And I see you guys on the next one. Subscribe and bye guys. See you.